to ask you about your podcast, Optimize Me Now. So now you have over 60 episodes there, and it's a brilliant podcast, so I endorse it myself. I want to ask you why you started the podcast.
Great question. I was inspired by Joe Rogan. Simply, I love the way that he had really honest conversations. And that for me was the main motivation, is that I wanted to do the same. I just love the way that he would talk about real things, talk about things that other people weren't talking about, and not be afraid to go into things that may be considered conspiracies or more esoteric subjects, but be really down to earth and honest about it, and not be afraid to call people out on their bullshit. So for me it was about, I want to have some real conversations, but real conversations that are meaningful to people who are listening in a way that can help them think differently about the world, their own lives, their business, and help them to get better results. And when I started the podcast, it was just me talking about my experiences, my systems and strategies and that kind of stuff. And the very first episode actually was with my best mate Kevin, and it was around money mindset, and I loved that episode. And the ones that I did on my own, they were great, but they were different. And I really loved, as I got into it and started having more and more guests coming on the show, I loved the fact that actually these were people who, they're not Gary Vee, they're not Tony Robbins, they're not these big names, they're not famous like that, but actually their stories were equally as empowering, equally as powerful, equally as inspiring. And these are just normal people. And the people I've had on my show, the things that they've shared, the things that they've talked about, the insights. My latest episode with Lindy Harding is a great example, probably the most profound podcast episode I've done. And the way that she talked about her experiences of jumping out of an aeroplane, falling 5,000 feet and hitting the ground with no parachute. And the experience of the recovery and how she reconciled that event, and losing her mum when she was 18 years old. And just all of this stuff, but the way that she thinks about life. And she said something that almost brought me to tears on the show, and she was talking about how when you've lost so much, it's important to see the beauty in the smallest things, to just see a smile in someone and appreciate how truly wonderful that is. And it's those kind of insights. I learn so much from talking to my guests. It's a very selfish endeavour in that sense, that I get to sit down for an hour or 2 hours per guest and just pick their brains. And I have guests on who've got amazing stories, who've been through amazing experiences, who are experts in one area of business or social media or whatever it might be, martial artists, anybody who's got a story, anyone who's achieved something, or who I feel can share something that can make a positive difference in people's lives. I learn from that, but one of the most rewarding things is knowing that we're having an open, honest, real conversation where I'm not afraid to call bullshit or go there with things that other people might not be prepared to do, and the effect that can have on people, because I know what effect listening to Joe Rogan has had on me over the years. I've learned so much, and it's opened my eyes to so many different things. It's made me a much more critical thinker, and ultimately it's improved my life. And I've always wanted to have that effect. From a very young age, I remember as a kid reading the famous 5 books and Secret 7 series and all this kind of stuff.
I know them, yeah.
And I loved that stuff, man. I remember when I was a kid, we had an old shed in our garden. We lived down in Norfolk at the time, and that was going to be my Secret 7 shed. I was going to start the Secret 7. I've always had these weird and wacky ideas, but from a very young age, I've always wanted to make a difference. Even when I was 12, 13 years old, I decided that I was going to be the one to build the real USS Enterprise from Star Trek. Okay. And it sounds ridiculous and crazy, right? But I was actually collecting my dad's beer cans to be able to use that metal for the hull of the ship. Like, I'd got ideas of how, it's stupid and crazy. Looking back, it was never going to work. But I just wanted to do something that was going to move us forward, that was going to create an impact, that was going to help everybody grow and evolve.
Yes.
And I've completely forgotten the point of the question.
The question, no, I will. You said earlier that you're being selfish by picking people's brains, but do you know what? I think you would be selfish if you would keep that information to yourself, but you're not. You're sharing it with the world. So what you're doing when you're interviewing, it's similar to what I'm doing, and all the people that share knowledge is being a knowledge broker. So we take someone's knowledge, life's experience, lessons, and we kind of distill it through our own lens or through what we believe that would be the most beneficial way to our listeners, and give it to them as well. Of course, we benefit tremendously by the interaction and learning things firsthand, which the listener will probably not have the same kind of knowledge or energy gained like I'm having at the moment, being right opposite you. But still, the knowledge will be passed on, the impact will be made. You mentioned earlier that if we can change one person's life as a result of this, it's been a success, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're both investing time, energy and effort in doing what we do, right? Your podcast, my podcast, it takes a lot of work, finding the guests, curating the content, putting, look at the notes you put together for today's show. We want to do a similar thing in terms of researching the guests. What are they about? What's their story? What questions can I ask to draw out the real gold dust that's inside of this person? And that takes some energy and effort. For me, the reward is, I don't get paid for my podcast, the same as you. I don't run ads or anything like that. Yeah, I'll promote my products and services. I'll talk about my Bulletproof Business Accelerator programs and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I do it just to give back, and so I can learn, and so that hopefully I can just show people that there is another side to life. There is another point of view. There's another way to look at this, in the hope that that can expand their thinking and in turn give them better results in whatever it is that they're doing. So I get a lot out of it personally, but the most that I get out of it is seeing the result. I love seeing other people succeed. I love when you have that conversation, and that's why coaching I'm so passionate about, is when you can have a conversation with somebody and help them to turn on a light switch in their brains, help them to think differently, think in a way that they've not thought before, and you see that light bulb moment come on, and that's what it's all about for
Gives
me.
you the satisfaction, the fulfillment that you have helped.
Yes, but just to see that other person light up, that's what it's all about. And I suppose for me as well, if I can do that for my clients, if I can do that for the people who follow me on social media, then I stand a better chance of being able to do that for my kids. And that's a big motivation for me. One of my favourite things about the way I put out content and the fact that my content is out there and so much of it, one of my favourite things about that is that it's always going to be there. And if I die tomorrow, my kids are always going to have my lessons. They'll always have that. They can go on my Facebook profile and they can see me talking about business, about life, about relationships, about mental attitude, about all of this stuff. And I can rest a little easier knowing that even if something does happen to me, my kids can still learn from me, and they can still see my leading with a positive example. And my kids are a massive inspiration for me. I don't want to be the father who tells the kids, you can do anything, you can do this, you can do that, whilst not leading by example. Yeah, you can do anything, but make sure you go to college and do maths and get a safe job. If I want my kids to be the very best that they can be, I want them to grow, whatever they choose to do, I'm not going to force anything on them, but I want to give them the tools so that whatever they do can serve them and can serve the people around them. Now, they might only choose to be great people in their close family and friend circle. They may choose to be an influencer and go on and help millions. Either's cool with me. But I want them to have the option. I want them to have the tools, and I want them to look at their dad and say, do you know what? Anything that I want, whoever I want to be, whatever I want to achieve, so long as I put the work in, I can do it. And do you know how I know that? Because my dad fucking did it. He showed me. He started here and he got to there, and he did it with hard work learning, determination, and just getting after it with tenacity, being resilient. He showed me how to be in order to get all of the things that I want, how to serve myself and serve others. And for me, seeing my kids grow into adults and go out into the world with that philosophy, that would be a successful life for me. To see that, I would die a very happy man.
I feel in a similar way that the podcast is a kind of a legacy that is being left behind after us. Even if we're not here, the podcast will remain, and the knowledge and all the information will hopefully remain for a very long time.
I think it's just important to have those conversations. You know, coming back to the podcast, like the whole thing around swearing and various other topics. You know, it's just important we talk about it. Just because I feel the way I do about swearing as an example doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. I feel strongly about it, and I've got my reasons for that, and I can articulate that. Other people disagree with me, that's cool.
Absolutely.
You're not right or wrong, I'm not right or wrong. We just think about it differently, and that's okay. But I think that's important, is to have that conversation, to have it in an open forum, so that people can make an educated decision about how they live their lives, about how they behave, about how they interact with other people. Not doing it from their own biases and their own social conditionings, because there's a lot of the time, and the same is true for me even today, a lot of the thoughts in my head are not my own, right? They come from all of the people around me, so much of who we are, and the patterns that run our lives come from the first 7 years of our life. They come from how our parents behaved, how our parents dealt with us, the things that they said. And the more and more I delve into those patterns and those programs, the more and more I see how they were formed back when I was a little kid. And it's not until you make those connections and you understand, all right, that's where it came from, that's why I am the way I am, now I can modulate and I can manage that and produce better results. But you've got to be willing to go there. And I think people need to understand, and like there's another level. There's deeper that you can go. There's like some people have said to me, oh, you know, you are what you are. It is what it is. You know, this is just the way I am. You know, and that point of view just drives me insane.
I used to think like that about myself for
a
very long time.
Yeah.
I snapped out of it when I realized that it's not.
Absolutely.
It can change at any moment.
Exactly. And I've done various different experiments that have proven that to be true. You can be whoever you want to be. You just need to make a choice. But the thing that holds people back is the preconception of what people think they should be, what their family think they should be, who their friends think they should be, who their colleagues think they should be. And so they're trying to live in the expectations of others. And that's not who you are. There's then a massive disconnect between who you're trying to be and what you're putting out in the world and what you feel here, right? The core of yourself. That causes massive anxiety, can cause massive depression. That's a real battle and a struggle for people. But then it's like, well, I know that I should be more in tune with this, but like this is what people are expecting. If I'm more myself, then I'm going to be, people aren't going to like me. They're going to think I'm this, they're going to think I'm that. Stop worrying about what other people think. What other people think of you is none of your fucking business. Like, get that out of your head right now. Who the hell are you? What are your values? Who are you in here? And just live true to that. Like, obviously, don't go around killing people and hitting people over the head with hammers and all this kind of stuff.
I doubt that would be in someone's values, really, but yeah, anyway.
Well, you never know. But the point is that I'm just trying, like, there's going to be things that come up. When I'm saying this stuff, I know there's things that are going to come up in people's heads. And I'm trying to address the elephant in the room as I feel it's going to come up for them, right? And it doesn't mean that, like, you've got to, it's the way you behave and the things that you do, the things that you say, the way you interact with people. Try and move away from this whole idea around what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad. Instead, ask yourself, does this serve me and the people around me? Like, and to serve yourself is not selfish. This is another really important point. You have to look after yourself. And we talked about this briefly last night. Is that when you were crewing for UPW, on the last day you had a bit of a line until 9:30 because they'd said to you, you're not helping anybody if you're drained and exhausted. massive, right? But we're conditioned almost these days to think that if we focus on ourselves, we're being selfish, and we need to be, it's all about other people.